Oh boy, guys. So this came out just the other day, about a day or two ago. A report about Cyberpunk 2077. Now, if you've been paying attention to the channel, we've been covering this game pretty much. If there's a horse right here and it's dead, we've been beating it. But it just seems like when it's raining, it's pouring. When it's this fire just cannot be put out with what's going on with CD Project Red at all. It seems like little things, little by little, are coming out, and it's just exposing how much of liars these guys really were in regards to Cyberpunk 2077. So let's check this out, guys. Let's read this news article. Again, this came out a couple days ago, but it's still really interesting. I didn't get to touch on it. So Cyberpunk 2077 staff knew how bad the bugs were before launch, this report confirms. So in response to the report, CD Projekt studio head suggested that interview subjects were unreliable sources. So it's always like constantly on the defense from CD Projekt Red. So earlier this week, CD Projekt Red co-founder Marcin Iwiński once again apologized for the state of Cyberpunk 2077, which has been buggy on PC and very buggy on last-gen consoles. And we've covered all that nonsense. So in that apology, Iwiński suggested that the scope of Cyberpunk 2077's issues was not entirely known before release. We were skeptical of the claim, and a new report from Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, employees at the studio, reject it. So there seems like there's been a civil war inside of the studio that developers, people that worked on it, are saying one thing. The rumor is they're completely unhappy, and then you have the heads constantly doing damage control. I know just the other week, in fact, CD Projekt Red came out and said reports of developer unrest were completely untrue and fabricated, but we keep hearing reports that is otherwise. It's a very interesting situation, to say the least, in regards to what's going on with this. Now, it says, Schreier says he interviewed more than 20 current and former CD Projekt staff for the report, and while COVID-19 did cause difficulties with communication and production, developers couldn't work on console development kits in the office. For instance, the employees he spoke to say that external tests showed the problems, and the bugs were not the surprise Iwiński made them out to be, when he said that testing didn't show a big part of Cyberpunk's problems. So, to me, this sounds like the game was completely rushed, and that's the general consensus still since launch day, since this game came out. So it says, as the launch date drew closer, everyone at the studio knew the game was in rough shape and needed more time, writes Schreier, referring to Cyberpunk's 2077's November 19th release date, which became December 10th after the final postponement. During that 3-week delay, exhausted programmers scrambled to fix as much as they could, he says, but a smooth launch would have been impossible at that point. So, my God, why was it so bad? Like, I don't understand. like, what were they thinking launching this? Now, it says Schreier previously reported on crunch, mandatory overtime in the lead up to a game's release at CD Projekt Red. And this report includes another story of overwork within the studio. There were times when I would crunch up to 13 hours a day. A little bit over, that was my record probably. And I would do 5 days a week working like that, said Adrian Jakubiak, a former CD Projekt Red audio programmer. I have some friends who lost their families because of these sort of shenanigans. So this guy, this developer, is saying 13 hours a day for 5 days a week, and some of their friends lost their families because of this. Could you imagine working for something like that? So here's some tidbits. Veteran devs from other companies were shocked at CD Projekt Red's free-for-all production. One example, if someone needed a shader, they'd make it with no pipeline in place to determine whether someone had already made one with the same function. And one CD Projekt Red developer told their manager that they didn't want to work overtime, as their CEO had said would be okay. Fine, the manager said, but one of the other coworkers would just have to work extra hours to make up for them. Several other developers shared similar stories, so it was just like a free-for-all of no leadership. Ridiculous. The report briefly describes troubles that began much earlier in Cyberpunk 2077's development, such as the challenge of building a new engine at the same time as the game being built on it. What the hell? That makes no sense. And the fallout from overhauls requested by game director Adam Badowski in late 2016, when development is said to have begun in earnest, despite the game having been announced in 2012. So yeah, the consensus is the game, even though it was announced in 2012, they didn't start getting on it until 2016. Now, former Witcher 3 developers apparently left the project due to clashes with Badowski's vision, which among other things changed the camera from third to first person. Employees also say that CD Projekt Red struggled to manage a team of over 500, which is twice as large as The Witcher 3's development team. So, there are more details in the full report, which you can read at Bloomberg. Schreier also tweeted a handful of details that were omitted from the report, saying, for instance, that the police system was all done at the last minute. That police system was trash. So here's a response. This article actually was updated on the 16th with a response from CD Projekt Red themselves. More damage control, I would venture to say, which is unfortunate. Again, let me say this real quick before we continue. I'm not gloating that this game did so bad. In fact, I'm upset and disappointed because I enjoyed this game. I thought this game was pretty good. All flaws, all glitches aside, I enjoyed it so much that I literally streamed it for like 2 weeks straight. It's CD Projekt Red's fault that they're getting all this backlash, not the developers' faults. So, honestly, I'm not gloating that they are going through this. So CD Projekt management did not offer a response to be published in Bloomberg's report, but Badowski commented after the fact in a tweet. Badowski rejects Bloomberg's characterization of the E3 28 demo as fake, saying that it reflects a non-linear process of game development and was labeled as a work in progress. Our final game looks and plays way better than what the demo ever was, he wrote. So, more deflection. He went on and responded on here. A lot of this stuff. And you can see he's debating it and fighting it and everything like that. Definitely interesting to read. And you can see a definite amounts of mixed response. But to continue the article, well, we're not going to go through that piece by piece. We'll be here all day. This summarizes it anyway. It says, Badowski challenges the idea that the majority of staff felt the game wouldn't be ready to release in 2020, suggesting that the sample group of 20 employees is too small to make that claim. He also implies that the sources are unreliable because all but one is anonymous. So he's saying there's only 20 people. That's too small to make the claim, and that it's all anonymous except one person. Now, it's common to withhold the identities of sources in this sort of reporting, as their careers could seriously be harmed if they are named. That is to say, anonymous does not mean that they are anonymous to the reporter. Finally, Badowski responds to the article's comment that some non-Polish staffers felt uncomfortable when others left them out of conversations by speaking Polish. He notes that, as the article states, use of English is mandated in all company communication, but says that it's normal for people to default to their first language when speaking casually with others who share their language, something bound to happen in a company that employs people of 44 nationalities. If the question is if it's hard to move to another country, sometimes culture, and work and live there, then the answer is yes, writes Badowski. But that's universal to every company all over the world, and we're doing what we can to ease that transition. So, yeah. Definitely some mixed stuff. I recommend you check this tweet out from Adam. I'm going to leave a link in the description down below to this article, should you guys read it. This situation's a mess, guys. Honestly, I can't recall any time in history when a game developer and a company had a mess this big from perhaps the most hyped game of all time. This is going to be a difficult hole for them to climb out for sure. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Love to hear what you guys have to say. Subscribe if you haven't. I'll see you on the next one.